abortions between the mom and the doctor, but I don't want to pay for it.
I feel like women should have some rights too. I think they've gone too extreme.
There's parents that aren't ready to be parents, and if they're forced into that decision, well, you know what I mean? It leads into adoption and other issues.
Welcome back to Battleground. Even before Kamala Harris assumed the top of the Democratic ticket, abortion and reproductive rights were front and center in this campaign. And in Arizona, abortion is literally on the ballot, with a measure there to protect a woman's right to choose. For more on this, I'm joined once again by Ellen McNamara from Fox 10 in Phoenix. Ellen, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Essie. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so first, remind us of what happened with the Arizona Supreme Court decision and how that led to abortion being on the ballot in November.
Yeah, so, abortion was going to be on the ballot really anyway in the fall, but what happened in April really supercharged the effort to get it on the ballot in November. And what happened was the state Supreme Court revived a Civil War era ban on abortion. It was written in 1864. It was created when we were a territory. We weren't even a state back then. But at the time, we had two laws on the books. We had that one, and we had a 15-week ban. So they were competing against one another, and the state Supreme Court said, well, you never repealed that one from 1864, so that one is the law. And once that happened in April, that fired up people. They wanted to sign a petition to, for sure, get it on the ballot in November.
And so explain for us what the ballot measure would actually do if it were to pass in November.
So if it does pass, then it would enshrine abortion rights in our state constitution, and it would allow an abortion up to fetal viability. That's the specific language in the proposed amendment. Generally speaking, it's about 22 to 24 weeks, but there's no specified week in this language of the amendment.
Okay, a lot of Republicans now, including Donald Trump himself, have distanced themselves from the more extreme rulings on abortion, including that state Supreme Court ruling you were mentioning. How are Republican officials there positioning themselves on this issue?
When the 1864 abortion ban came back into play, a lot of Republicans distanced themselves from it. But keep in mind, they didn't distance themselves enough to actually repeal it. So it was still on the books, but it has since been repealed. It took about a month for the state legislature to eventually repeal that old near total abortion ban. And so many Republicans feel comfortable with the 15-week law that was signed by former Governor Doug Ducey into law. He's also, a Republican. And so they feel comfortable with that 15-week law. What they say about the amendment in the fall is that they feel like it goes too far left, and it allows an abortion too late into a pregnancy.
Okay, switching gears, Ellen, while I have you, there's a lot of talk about the possibility of Arizona Senator Mark Kelly as a possible VP for Kamala Harris. What are you hearing on the ground about that? Is that sort of a national conversation, or is it happening in Arizona too?
It's happening everywhere, Essie, and we're hearing it all the time, and for good reason. I mean, Mark Kelly, you look at his resume, I don't know that you can find a more impressive resume out there. I mean, he was a former fighter jet pilot in the Navy. We're talking Top Gun type stuff. Former astronaut. He was the commander of a space shuttle. He landed a space shuttle. He spent time in space, was at the International Space Station. I mean, he's a brilliant man. Then he marries Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, and they were trying to have a kid through IVF, specifically when she was shot and almost killed. And he's dedicated his life to her rehabilitation. So he's also just a really good man. And then in 2020, he decided to run, for the U.S. Senate. It was a special election to fill that seat of John McCain. He won. Then he won again in 2022, and he beat a billionaire-backed candidate just like J.D. Vance. So, he's already beaten someone like J.D. Vance. He certainly could do it again. And I think when you talk about Mark Kelly, specifically in our state, he does bring that border experience that the ticket probably lacks. And he's also been pretty critical of the current administration at times over how they've handled the border. So Democrats love Mark Kelly. The McCain Republicans that you and I, we talk about so often, they respect him. And independents, they'll vote for him. So he would be a strong addition to that ticket.
Sounds like it. Okay, and over on the other side, Trump is hosting a tele-rally for Senate candidate Kari Lake tonight. Now, she's nearly guaranteed to win her primary tomorrow, but how is she faring against her Democratic challenger, Ruben Gallego, right now?
So the polling still shows that she is down in a general election against Ruben Gallego. And in the primary tomorrow, I think many people feel like it's going to be tighter than what has been shown in previous polling. She's facing a Pinal County Sheriff, Mark Lamb. And there was a story just last week where a GOP donor, a big time donor, she's married to the owner of our baseball team here. She sent out a letter to all of her Republican friends saying, don't vote for Kari Lake in the primary, vote for Mark Lamb. Now, it might be too late, right? Because early voting has already been happening in the primary. So I think a lot of people think it's going to be tighter than what the polls showed. But assuming she does get through that primary tomorrow, she is going to face an uphill battle with Gallego, especially when you have abortion on the ballot and especially when you have Harris at the top of the ticket.
That's going to be really interesting to watch, and that's why we'll be coming to you again over the course of the next few months. Ellen McNamara from Fox 10 in Phoenix, thank you. Okay, for more on all of this, visit us at battlegroundnews.com, where you can sign up for our newsletter, download our interactive swing state map, and find our social media links. As always, we'll share your feedback right here and online. Our megaphone poll question is about Kamala Harris's VP pick. We asked our voters in our swing states to weigh in, and here are the results. Battleground, we'll be right back.